I'm glad. I'm glad when you pointed to those guys that Bronny mentioned. You talked about players that impact winning, and I think that's a great segue to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, man.
And the conference finals are set. We've got 4 teams, and there's some similarities between all 4 teams, but I think all 4 teams have their own specific identity. You know, one of the things when I think about all 4 of these teams is they have a bunch of guys that star in their roles beyond the stars of the team. There's buy-in across the board to what guys' roles are. And I think in the regular season, whether it's because people are distracted, the viewership is different. Everybody wants to talk about is who's in the MVP discussion, all of that. It's not till the playoffs that we fully get to appreciate guys like Naz Reid, guys like TJ McConnell, the Derrick Whites of the world, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Jaden McDaniels, of course. And it's, to me, this playoff run for like across the league, does it feel like to you the role players are almost having more impact than normal? I mean, I know there's always been there, but it feels like when we talk about, we always talk about like your stars got to win a couple games. You got to gut through a game. Maybe your coach gets you a game. Your role players win you a game. It feels like the role players night to night have just been incredibly consistent.
No, you're absolutely right, JJ. I mean, you look at last night's Game 7 in Denver. You know, we talk about how spectacular Ant-Man has been this whole postseason. Last night, he goes 6 for 24 from the field. I mean, I think at halftime, he had maybe 2 or 4 points, you know. And in that fourth quarter, you saw Naz Reid. You saw, obviously Rudy is kind of a star player, but Rudy making plays, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Jaden McDaniels was just, I mean, he's been huge all season, but you see it even more in the postseason. But Naz Reid last night, you know, from, you know, the Euro step he had left, right on Joker, get fouled on the offensive rebound. Then he had a tip dunk from the corner. You know, he had a big time block shot on Joker late in that game as well. Like, he was huge. And then he pushed it in transition. They was up 7 and hit Ant-Man for a corner 3 opposite of their bench. You know, that came off Naz Reid. You know, so like, you're absolutely right. The role players right now with these 4 teams that's left are making all the plays. You saw PJ Washington. Seemed like every time PJ Washington got into foul trouble in that Dallas versus OKC series, OKC kind of had a little advantage, you know? And when he was on the floor, the advantage was gone, you know, because PJ Washington was there, made the timely threes, obviously, in Game 6 at home, made the timely stops. He was just big for him. So, you know, and obviously TJ McConnell, he's just he's a coach's dream to be able to have a guy like that comes in, knows exactly what he's doing, puts the tempo. He's always going to be high in assist-to-turnover ratio, you know, and he's just a dog. So you are absolutely right, man. This postseason is great, and as much, obviously, we know the narrative is always going to go to the star guys. But to be honest, these games have been won by the MVPs of the role players.
Yeah, to that point, last night's a great example in Game 7. There were games earlier in the Knicks run where Jalen Brunson didn't have a good shooting night and they won. Luka has not been at his best outside of a couple games, and they've won. They won games in that OKC series without Kyrie having a monster performance. And I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but it feels like, and it feels like, and we'll get to some of the parody stuff in a second, but it just feels like the depth of talent right now, particularly on really good teams, like you can't concentrate. You need 7, 8 guys that can really play in high pressure moments and have you called it a dog. I'll say it, the toughness, the mental fortitude to compete at this level. And it feels like across the board in the NBA, we're getting more and more of these guys that are just, they're fucking good players, man. They're good players.
Absolutely right. And they are starring in their roles, and they're not doing nothing outside of what they do. And this is what this postseason has been about, and that's what this top four is all about. These top four teams, Indiana, Boston, Dallas, and Minnesota, have a bunch of guys who star and they roll, and they do it every single night, man. They are great at what they do. And if there's teams out here looking to see how to be successful, obviously you got to have star. You got to have maybe one, possibly two. That's gonna make sure that everybody stays even keel. But at the end of the day, you got to have those soldiers around, man. You got to have, the concierges and the capos and the rest of those guys that's gonna be ready to go, man. And that's what we see at the Final Four right now in the NBA.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching Mind the Game podcast. If you like it, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.